What's up, everyone? It's Phoenix here, bringing guys another review of Young Justice. But instead of doing just episodes 10 to 13, I am reviewing the entire first half. The entire first half. Now that it's all been released, let's talk about it. So, first of all, I'm going to give you guys my overall review without spoilers, especially for these last 4 episodes. I thought these last 4 episodes were pretty good. Um, they had some of my favorite moments. They had from some of my favorite cameos and introductions, and while there was a lot of origin stories still being told, it was made in a way that it was still interesting to watch. It was interesting to watch this version of a very familiar tale. And while, a lot of the times origin stories are overdone and it's kind of just the same thing over and over again, especially when they're clumped together, with Justice League and, Justice League doing all those origin stories, and then, we had Titans doing those origin stories, and then we had, all of these other things, all these other movies and shows doing origin stories. In a way, this was kind of refreshing. Like, it was telling it in a different way, honestly, in a more mature way. And I don't want to give anything away if you haven't seen these episodes, so I'm not going to tell you which cameos I enjoyed, except, later in this episode when we get into the spoilers. But overall, I felt this first half of the season was really good. The animation quality was a little bit on the weaker side, just because, I think they were working with a lower budget than before, since they're not working with a network. They kind of have to refrain their budget a little bit. And especially since they're a resurrected show, they don't start out with as much money as they did in the past, because they're being resurrected. One of us is seeing is whether or not this show could stand on its own like it did, before, like 10 years later. So you can kind of tell, like, the quality was a little bit lower than it was. Like, there were some scenes where the lip syncing wasn't quite there. But I did like the style. Even though the animation was a little bit weaker, the style of art was actually a little bit better, in my opinion. I liked the new design for Batman. I liked the new design for the characters that were being introduced. I liked, seeing them as adults, a lot of these familiar characters. And I really did enjoy that. I do think that this first half of the season was really well told, and honestly, it was really good to have these characters coming back into the spotlight and being reintroduced, and being seen again, I guess. And so that is my non-spoiler review. If you have not seen episodes 1 to 13, do not watch this video. Go back and watch the first half of the season, and then come back and we're going to talk about it. And that means every single episode, because I'm going to be talking about all of it. Okay, so don't think that you can just, watch like a couple episodes and then come in here and get the spoilers, because you will get all the spoilers. Now, if you have not seen all of the episodes and you aren't able to, you can also go into my playlist. I have a playlist of Young Justice reviews, and it says, which episodes are which episodes. If you only saw 1 to 3, there's a link. There's a video for that, so you can get those separate reviews if you haven't seen all of the episodes. But this video is going to be talking about all of them. Okay? So if you have not seen the first half of the season, get out of here now. This is my last warning. Are you ready? Set. Go. Okay. So let's start with the beginning of the season. The beginning of the season, we're being reintroduced to these characters that we've been missing for like 7 years. I don't know how long it's been, but I think it was like 7 years or something like that. But it's been a while. Okay, it's been a while since we've actually seen Young Justice. It has been a while. I think it's probably been like 5 years since the first season actually aired. And then it's been like even longer still to get this third season. We've been campaigning. At first it was going to go to Netflix, and then but Netflix was really pushing if we can get the show doing well on Netflix and getting this buying the comics, buying the merchandise. If you do that, then the Young Justice has the potential of coming back, full-fledged, coming back with season 3. And then in June of like either last year or like 2017, we got the teaser of the image of the poster of Young Justice season 3. Now, we didn't know where that was going to go. We didn't know if it was going to go back to Cartoon Network. We didn't know if it was going to go to Netflix. We didn't know if it was going to something else, Hulu or whatever. But it turned out that it was going to go on the DC Universe streaming platform. That's where it was going to be premiered. And I believe if you were in a separate country, like Europe, Canada, Mexico, whatever, if you're outside of the U.S., because, the DC Universe streaming platform is only in the U.S. right now, I believe they are working on getting the international, platforms done, but currently they only have the U.S. It's a very small streaming platform for right now, as they make it larger and put more stuff on it and get it going to other countries. But I believe if you don't have DC Universe in your country, you can see the show on Netflix. I don't know if it's uploaded to if it's uploaded to Netflix, but I think they will upload it to Netflix if it hasn't been already. But so we got this poster. All right, we got this poster of Young Justice season 3. We didn't know what that would mean. Would that mean that we were going to pick up right where we left off, or was there going to be something else happening? And then we finally got. I think the poster was 2 years ago, 2017. And then we finally got the first teaser trailer of Young Justice in, I want to say, June of 2018, I think. I don't know. But we got the first teaser trailer, and we also got the name of the season. Right, because season 2 and season 3 are both named. Season 2 was Young Justice Invasion, I think. Invasion. And season 3 was titled Outsiders. Now, we didn't know what that would mean. It could really have meant anything. But now we come to the first episode. Actually, let me go back. We got the title Outsiders, and then we got a roster of different characters that would be featured in that. We got Tim Drake. We got I think Tigress was on there. We saw Arrowette. We saw Ravager. We saw Spoiler. We saw basically the entire Bat family. I think we saw Beast Boy on there too. There was a whole poster. Instead of memorizing this, let me just pull it up. Let me just pull up the thing. Okay, it was. Yeah, we got Blue Beetle. We got Spoiler. We got Arrowette. We got Red Arrow or whatever. Maybe that's Arsenal. I have no idea. They all look the same. We got Beast Boy. We got Wonder Girl, Cassandra, not Donna. Tim Drake. We got Impulse, and Static Shock. So we got a few of those characters, and then later when the official teaser trailer was dropped or whatever, we got the first look at the new characters being introduced. Halo, Brion, Forager, and essentially Tigress would be also in that group. Now, finally, in January of 2019, we got the first 13 episodes. They were all released 3 episodes at a time, each and every week. And then the final week was 4 episodes to wrap up the first half of the season. This was a big deal, okay? We didn't even know if we were going to get season 3 because of the whole Cartoon Network thing, it wasn't that the show was doing bad on Cartoon Network. It was that it was targeting a different demographic than it was originally intended for, right? It was targeting like teen girls, and instead of making, merchandise for that, they decided to just scrap the show because they didn't, they originally intended it for like young boys to be watching this show. And I find it really strange that they wouldn't go with it, just go with it and just make merchandise, make t-shirts, make things that are suited for the demographic that's watching the show. I mean, you don't have to make it pink or purple or whatever, but just make merchandise that makes sense, right? I remember, when I watched the animated series, I bought every single action figure. I have a huge collection of the animated series action figures. Like, girls do buy these toys as well. In fact, for me, they were a lot cooler than Barbies at the time. I have a huge collection. I'm pretty sure I'm the sole reason why the animated series went on for so long. Because I literally have hundreds of toys. Each $9.99. That $9.99 of 3-pack toys is totally worth it. I had to collect them all. Anytime that I saw a new animated series thing that I didn't have, I had to have it. It was a very big tradition. I have so many. I still have them, not with me currently, but I still have them. So it's not like this was an alien thing. There are plenty of people who would have bought toys if they simply marketed that way and just told people, hey, this is how we make money. Go buy these toys if you want, the show to actually stay. But no, they decided to just give up and scrap it. But in retrospect, though, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, right? Not in the sense that we had to wait. I mean, we had to wait for so long, but if Cartoon Network continued the season 3, we would not have the season that we have now. Because, as you can probably tell by watching the show, it's much more mature and much more to the point and a much more darker telling. And the reason that it is that way is simply because they can. They are now on a separate network, no strings attached, no, TV rules. They're on their own streaming platform, and they can essentially do whatever they want with this show. And in many ways, it's a very good thing because they can get to the nitty-gritty and they can get to those storytellings. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually ended up seeing the Killing Joke version of Young Justice, because we know Oracle exists in this universe. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got that rendition, or some sort of, maybe not the exact tale of it, but some sort of rendition of it down the line, because they can do that. If they were still on Cartoon Network, they would not be able to tell this season. And in some ways, that's a very good thing, that they're finally able to tell the story the way that they want to, because we can kind of see, where the writers actually want to go. They don't necessarily want to go this family-friendly route, but they can still make it fun to watch. They're still fun episodes that and really funny moments. The first 3 episodes was setting up this idea that, hey, this is not going to be the season. This is not going to be like any other season. This is going to be more mature. This is going to be more gritty. This is going to be, there's going to be blood. There's going to be darkness. There's going to be stories being told that are not necessarily for kids. And I think it really suits because the previous demographic was teenagers, young adults. That was the demographic. Even though they were aiming for like 8 to 9 year olds, 8 to 9 year old boys, like PewDiePie fans, they're targeting to the 9-year-olds. They ended up getting a much older demographic than they were expecting, which is why Cartoon Network canceled the show. Not because it was doing poorly, but because it was the demographic that they didn't expect. Which I don't know why that would affect them, because, MOP does it. My Little Pony Friendship and Magic, the biggest demographic for them is 20-year-old dudes. And obviously it's not targeted for that, but they still managed to adapt it so that that audience could enjoy it alongside, the little kids. And it works. It worked. And so I'm not really sure why Cartoon Network found this to be such a big deal. It's not like it's the first time a demographic, show gained a different demographic than expected. I don't know why it's such a surprise when this happens. But anyways, regardless, it doesn't matter. But we were finally able to get this story. And we saw the first 3 episodes, like, this is not going to be the way it is. And we were introduced to these characters called Halo, Brion, and Forager. Well, Forager wasn't introduced yet, but we got to see these new characters. And in many ways, they were very similar to the characters that we all know and love. Brion is very much like the season 1 Connor. He's very out of control. He's very hot-headed. He's very aggressive. He's very not thinking straight. And then Halo is very much like Megan in a way, where she's not from this world. She is, but she isn't, and she's very confused as to what's going on. Why am I here? How am I still alive? That sort of thing. And she insists that she's not, this other person who she used to be, but she is now this, Violet. She has become Halo. I think Gabrielle Dow was her original name in the comics. I don't know this because I didn't actually research that. I'm just guessing that Gabrielle Dow was her original name in the comics, and then they decided to change it. Oh, what if we, went this direction with this character? Makes sense. And so we get into the season. At first, it's kind of slow. We do get glimpses of what is to come, though. The first 3 episodes were kind of slow. But it was very much setting up this whole storyline. And while some people might have an issue with it being slow, I actually think it's a much better way of telling it. And the reason is it's not just like throwing all of the episodes at the end, big reveal type thing. It's slowly progressing the story so that it lasts through the entire first half, and then we get to the second half, right? And people are saying, well, that's a problem, that's a problem, why are they taking so long to get to the point? Well, that's how stories should be told. It should, if you have 26 episodes, which they do, they have 26 episodes to tell. They can take their time telling the story, adding it up, and so they don't end up with quote-unquote filler episodes. They end up with little bits of information being spread throughout all of the episodes. And so it's not a waste of time. They can still have these fun little moments, but they don't have to... they can still have these fun little moments, but they're still propelling the story to be what it is. And people are saying, oh, but Titans tried to do that and it kind of fell flat. Well, Titans only had 11 episodes, where they had 2 less episodes, Where this time, Young Justice has 26 episodes. They're a standard, CW length. And while they only have, 20 minutes to tell their story per episode, they're doing it in a way that is efficient. They're getting to the point, but they're also having these fun moments that the people who originally loved the original seasons can enjoy. We got this moment with Barbara Gordon and Nightwing. That story, that ship in general is rarely touched upon. Rarely ever touched upon. It's usually Starfire and Nightwing. But the fact that we don't have Starfire quite yet, I think she's being introduced, especially since they're getting all these Teen Titans. I think eventually Starfire will be coming, as well as Raven. But for now, we're only focusing on, we only have Barbara as Nightwing, as Dick's, love interest, his girlfriend. And that was kind of a cute scene, and not only that, but it was also a good way of introducing Oracle to be this, this genius behind the mask, telling, these people what to do, she's giving them analysis. My favorite episode, though, I would have to say, was the recent one of, I think it was episode 10, where they're going to Santa Prisca. And the reason why I enjoyed it is because there was long periods of silence. They didn't use any dialogue because it was a stealth mission. They didn't use any dialogue. No, mental thoughts, no, no whispering, no, nothing in the earpieces. It was complete silence. Yet you could see these characters in action. We could see Katana, we could see Metamorpho, we could see Batman all in action doing their thing, and it was so quiet. It's amazing. It's amazing what these voice actors can do when they have dialogue. But it's even more amazing when the animators don't have that dialogue, but they're animating the scene that is very much real. It was so real, it was kind of amazing to watch. And while I did enjoy other episodes, I enjoyed that one the most because it was very impressive animation-wise, because half of the episode there was no dialogue at all, and yet they were able to animate this to be quite a scene. We could see how the Bat Family kind of operates. Now, it's kind of weird that Metamorpho is part of the Bat Family, because he's not really part of the Bat Family, but he still fit right in, and seeing his powers being used during the stealth mission was very interesting. And I'm assuming that Metamorpho is part of Batman's little squad. The Outsider. Well, I guess I don't really know who the Outsiders are supposed to be. Whether or not, I think the Outsiders are Batman's team, but also the Outsiders seem to be Halo's team, or Brion's team. They're kind of two separate Outsider teams. They're the trio, I guess, plus Cyborg for now. And then there's also the Outsiders, which is Batman's team, since he decided to part from the Justice League team. Although I think it's an elaborate plan. He's not actually technically left the Justice League. I mean, he did. He did leave the Justice League. But in many ways, he's still part of the Justice League. And, he's still in contact with the League. And they did this because they were fighting the Light, who were also using that same method of working with different teams and not knowing that they were working with each other. It's kind of weird. But we get the introduction to these good goggles, right? At some point, we get an introduction to these good goggles, and they keep showing up. And when they keep showing up, it's obvious that they have to do something. My original thought was that, okay, maybe it's Brainiac, because we don't have any confirmation that Brainiac was going to be in the season, but it'd be very interesting to see Brainiac and Darkseid, going up against each other yet again, and having that be a thing. Because that's how they did that in the animated series, where Brainiac did his thing, Darkseid did his thing, and then they eventually kind of fought each other. And they're two very powerful Superman villains, and not just Superman villains, but Justice League villains in general. So it would be very interesting to see, Young Justice going up against both of the big bads of the universe. But it actually turns out to be Granny Goodness, which I guess is completely obvious, but for me it was kind of too obvious, but that was okay. But we learned that Granny Goodness was behind the good goggles, and that could only mean one thing: brainwashing. And so I predicted that the goggles would be used to brainwash, people to bring them to Darkseid's side. Which essentially is what happened, but also isn't what happened. I mean, okay, I didn't realize that it would target specifically metahumans, but I guess that makes sense. Since they're searching for all these people with the metagenes, it would make sense that they use that same technology to give these people the good goggles, give these people the VR sets and put them on them. So it's not going to be all humans, it's going to be specifically metahumans. And then we get to the last 4 episodes, which is very interesting. And we get to see them make fun of Teen Titans Go. We get to see them see the sort of teams coming together. We see, Brion and all his team. We also see Batman's team, but we also see another team forming. We see Cyborg's introduction. We see Beast Boy coming together. We see Terra coming together. There's also Nightwing already there. And I would not be surprised if we end up seeing Starfire and Raven also join the team. And of course, we'll eventually get Blue Beetle as well, forming not only the Outsiders, but also the Teen Titans coming in strong. And I would think it would be very interesting to have the Teen Titans, Young Justice, Outsiders all in this whole universe. And we know that Teen Titans is getting a season 6 or whatever, or is potentially getting a season 6. So what if, we form this team in this episode, in this, and then we also, once we introduce these characters, we also see them coming in with season 6 of Teen Titans. That would be kind of interesting. That would be kind of interesting. But I mean, I do enjoy because Teen Titans is essentially off the air, and Teen Titans Go is on a separate network. We get to see these characters being introduced into this world, and I think I know what's going to happen. I do think I know what's going to happen. First, I think we're going to get Starfire still. She's going to end up kissing Dick. Oh wait, I just figured out what that would mean after I said it out loud. But she's going to end up kissing Robin, right? And she's going to learn language like she does in all of the renditions of the Teen Titans, except for apparently Titans. But she's going to end up kissing Robin. And Barbara is going to have an issue with that, obviously, because he's her boyfriend. So obviously it's going to be an issue. And we're going to end up getting this love triangle between Barbara, Starfire, and Robin. And Robin's essentially going to have to choose between them. That's going to be interesting, because we don't usually get that conflict between Starfire and Batgirl, because they're usually not in the same movie / universe / thing. They're usually not, both the same at the same time. So it'd be kind of interesting to see them battle it out and see who Robin ends up being with. Now, I personally prefer Barbara and Dick because honestly, I like their relationship more because they started out as friends and they built that relationship. And then Starfire is more of like the Disney princess version where she just falls in love with him and they end up together. And honestly, I prefer the best friend story where they grew up with each other. They literally grew up with each other and eventually ended up together. And then we see this storyline, and I honestly like that more than Corey and Robin. But of course, there's still others that enjoy that Corey and Nightwing. And honestly, they're so popular because they're like the two best looking characters in the comic books, and so therefore naturally people ship them together. And they do have their solid moments as well. I think it will be interesting because we have Terra and Beast Boy, right? But we're also potentially going to get Raven as well, and so we're also have that love triangle because they've also been a thing in the comics. But we are also getting Damian Wayne and Red Hood, essentially Jason Todd. So not only that, but we'll also have Damian Wayne coming in and being a potential having a relationship with Raven. And honestly, I like Raven and Robin more. Raven and Damian more than I do Raven and Beast Boy. I really liked when they did that in the Teen Titans movies. The recent Judas Contract. They played up that sort of relationship between Raven and Damian. And I actually like them better together than I do, Beast Boy. I do like Beast Boy and Terra more being together. And it was kind of interesting that Beast Boy in this series is dating a princess, but not Terra. I think that's the princess from Kaznia or whatever, the one who had the heart transplant. I think that's the princess that Beast Boy is dating. So I wonder if they're going to make a joke about how princesses are Beast Boy's type, because I'm assuming eventually they're going to end up breaking up so that Terra and Beast Boy can be together. And that's going to be interesting too, because they're both blonde princesses, and eventually they're both going to be Beast Boy's girlfriends, or ex-girlfriend in that case. So it's kind of interesting how they're developing these love triangles without really having them all be introduced to each other. And then we finally met Terra, but there's something off about her. And we learned that she's working with Deathstroke, which honestly makes sense because that's what she does in the comics. She has this really weird love interest with love relationship with Deathstroke, who is 40 years old, and she's 10, which is very strange. I've never understood their relationship. But they're obviously going to be a thing, or at least something of a thing, and they're going to be working with each other. And Terra's essentially, I'm assuming, going to double cross them. And I'm wondering if they're going to play it up like Judas Contract or whatever that movie was. I think they did in Judas Contract, where essentially Terra ends up betraying them and giving Deathstroke or whoever the Young Justice's powers or whatever, and giving those tips. and then Terra will eventually become good, because I think Beast Boy is going to make her be good. I don't know. It's very interesting to see this all developed. And I'm wondering how exactly they're going to bring it full circle, because I think they are intending to bring everything full circle, including, Will and Cheshire, Artemis and Wally, and all of those little loose ends. And I do believe that we are getting Wally back, because of that. Was it the last episode? I don't know. One of the last 4 episodes. We got that scene. With Beast Boy and Wally. Like, we saw a flashback. We essentially saw a flashback of what happened in season 2. And why would they have that in there unless they are planning on bringing Wally back? They keep mentioning Wally, right? They keep mentioning Wally. They mentioned it in like one of the first 3 episodes or whatever, when with the Wills and the Roys or whatever, the Harper family thing. They mentioned him there. And then they mentioned him, they sort of hinted towards him also with Artemis, and her having this thing with, redheads and her, they mentioned Wally. And then we get this scene with Beast Boy being controlled by, or trying to be brainwashed by Granny Goodness. But I guess the Monkey God is showing Beast Boy these images of what happened with Wally. But why is Wally being mentioned at all? What does that have to do with anything? Why does that have to be mentioned in order to persuade Beast Boy to, I guess, snap out of it in a way? Why is that there? Like, we've learned from the Good Goggles and all these things that they're not just putting these in for no reason. There is definitely a reason why they keep mentioning Wally. And I do believe he's coming back. Now, there's been debates about the Speed Force existing. One of the creators behind Young Justice doesn't like the Speed Force. And so we don't know if the Speed Force exists or not. But there are also other ways of Wally returning. I mean, the most obvious one would be the Speed Force. But perhaps there is another way, without including the Speed Force necessarily, to bring him back. What if... Now hear me out. What if Wally didn't go into another dimension like the Speed Force? But what if he went to another planet? Now, we wouldn't know if he went to another planet because we haven't been on those planets. We've only been on New Genesis. But what if he went to Apokolips? And he's on Apokolips? Because we wouldn't know that he's there. Right? There's no way of getting in contact with him, and he won't necessarily have lead communications and have a way of communicating back to him that he is alive. What if Wally is not necessarily gone, but simply on another world? That is a way that they could do. That is something they could do without necessarily introducing the Speed Force, because there's multiple reasons as to why Wally could end up on Apokolips. Maybe there is some sort of like boom tube, or I don't know, in that explosion or whatever. And that was the whole plan, to bring Wally to Apokolips, bring a speedster to Apokolips essentially. Maybe that was Lex Luthor's plan. Because they had him, Lex Luthor had them running around for a reason. And, Lex Luthor isn't necessarily the hero type, but what if he had an ulterior motive for him to do that? It's not necessarily going to be a Speed Force, but there could be other reasons. to bring him back. Right? We saw Jason Todd come back, so why can't Wally come back? No, we never saw Wally die. We never saw anything. We just saw him fade away. I guess that's what happened, right? Yeah, he faded away. So I guess, we assume that he's in the Speed Force, but maybe he escaped the Speed Force and ended up on a completely different planet. And he ended up on Apokolips. That could be a thing. Or, they could actually do the Speed Force thing and have him come back in the second half. That could be a thing. But we're clearly getting him back, okay? They wouldn't rehire the same voice actor and have Wally be in there if they weren't planning on bringing him back. Unless they are. Unless that's their way of bringing him back, which would be stupid. It would be dumb to do that, so don't do that. But I don't know. We haven't seen Apokolips yet. We don't know anything. And we do know that Apokolips is going to be the second half. That's what the intro is kind of hinting, that the first half is Earth, the second half is Apokolips. And we also got this revelation that Halo is essentially a living mother box. What? She and Cyborg are very similar in that sense, that they are a living mother box. That actually explains Halo's power set, because it seems like she's like OP. But what if she wasn't necessarily the reason? She wasn't her powers, but the mother box was. The mother box was doing all of this. The mother box was allowing her to do all these things. Doing all these, bringing her back to life. That's what the mother box is sort of meant for. We saw that with Sphere. And, Sphere is very connected with Halo for some reason. And we learned that it's because she is a mother box, essentially. She and Cyborg are very similar in that way. And it would explain why she has all these different powers. It's not because of her, it's because of the mother box. She did not have Metagene. That's why she died. She died. That's why she wasn't a meta. She tested negative for the meta. But the mother box saved her. The mother box saved her. Because they were experimenting with it. And she became the mother box. Because, the mother boxes have always been sort of alive. They've always been living beings in a way. And so it would make sense that if it was living, it could choose a host, since, it was freed from the box. It could choose a host. And what if that host was Violet? Or Gabrielle, or whatever her name, Halo. That's a very interesting thing. And we've seen all of these cameos from different characters as well. We saw Orion already. And we probably will see more New Genesis characters. We saw Bear again. And we saw all of these characters. And we keep getting this connection to Apokolips. The Boom Tubes. Halo. Cyborg. These father boxes. The mother boxes. They're all connected to something. The good goggles are all connected to something. And all of them are connected to Apokolips. And that's how we're going to end up getting to Apokolips. Is to probably through Cyborg and Violet, we're going to travel to Apokolips. And we're going to learn that Darkseid is behind all this. And the Light already knows that Darkseid is behind all this. He's the bigger force. While Deathstroke is the leader, Darkseid is the puppet master. And he is the one who is controlling all of this. We saw Granny Goodness. And I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up seeing Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. I really hope they do show up, because this would be the perfect season for them to do that. And I really do enjoy this. I really do enjoy this. There's so many good moments that I could go on probably for hours talking about this and discussing everything that happened. I mean, it's just so good to have this show coming back. We rarely get that. I mean, Justice League Unlimited was probably one of the best finales of wrapping up a series, a long series. You know, we started with Batman the Animated Series, then we got Superman the Animated Series, and then we got Justice League the Animated Series, and then we got like the New Adventures of Batman and Batman and Superman, and then we ended up getting Justice League Unlimited. And Justice League Unlimited was amazing. We also got Batman Begins at the same time, and we ended this whole thing with Justice League Unlimited, Alive and Destroy. We ended with Darkseid, and we ended the entire thing. And they all left, they ran out, essentially. And it was a while since then when we got an actual show that was like the animated series, and that series was Young Justice. And we also got Green Lantern, the animated series, which is underrated. But we didn't get that. And then it was canceled. And then we didn't really have anything like the animated series anymore. We had Teen Titans Go, but who the heck wants Teen Titans Go over Young Justice? Like, that's no. And then, we did get Teen Titans for a while, but that was canceled. So there was really nothing on air that was like the animated series. And now we finally get the season back. We finally get this back. And not only that, but there's also talk of Teen Titans Season 6 coming as well. Because there was that hint at the end of Teen Titans Go to the Movies, or whatever it's called. And now we're also getting a Justice League reunion with Justice League versus Fatal 5. Now, it's not a complete reunion, but I'm assuming that if Justice League versus Fatal 5 does really well, I would assume that could potentially translate to a Justice League Unlimited return. Not necessarily the same 7, but a new team. Obviously we'll have the Trinity, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. We'll have the Trinity, but we're also getting like people like Jessica Cruz, people like and just imagine the day that we get both Young Justice Season 3 and Season 4 and Justice League the Animated Series reunion. I don't know if it would necessarily be unlimited, but it could be just like the animated series. I don't know what they would call it necessarily, but we could have that coming back. There's Bruce Timm Classics. And man, would that be a great combination. Plus we have Titans. We do have the CW shows as well, and we also have the movie verses as well. Not necessarily the DCU, although the DCU is doing better, way better, with Aquaman and Shazam coming out. But we also have, new shows coming. We have Harley Quinn coming. We have Swamp Thing coming. We have these new movies, Justice League vs. Fatal 5, and we have all this coming. And we can get a new era for the DC universe. Not just the DCEU, not just the cinematic universe, but the entire universe. Just imagine we get that era back where we have these characters coming back. We have the animated series, not just Young Justice, but the animated series coming back, being a thing once again, bringing back like the Golden Age or the Renaissance or whatever you want to call it. Make DC great again. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. we get all these shows returning, all these DC shows, the next show that I honestly think that does deserve another season is Green Lantern. Green Lantern, the animated series, while it did kind of wrap up a little bit better than Young Justice did, it still left us on a cliffhanger. We had this great show, and it was kind of like Young Justice situation, but it also did have low ratings. Just because, it was airing at the same time as Young Justice, essentially, and it was kind of getting the back seat of things. People weren't really watching it. But I believe that if Green Lantern came back to the streaming service, it would do much better than it had been doing. Because there are some great moments in Green Lantern the animated series, and I think it was a missed opportunity to get a Green Lantern show. Maybe you can only do so much with Green Lantern, but I really did enjoy it. We didn't really get to see any of the other Green Lanterns. Like John Stewart and Jessica Cruz. If they did that with Green Lantern the animated series, I really do think it would have been an amazing show. It was good. It was still good. But it kind of got the short end of the stick. While, they both got canceled, right? Young Justice and Green Lantern, the animated series, both got canceled. But they could have both been so much better. And if Young Justice Season 3 ends up being successful, then I do believe that Green Lantern does deserve a Season 3. I think it had 2 seasons, and then it was canceled, just like Young Justice was. And so to have them back, I really think would push DC to having a new era of streaming shows, not just the cinematic universe. The cinematic universe is being improved heavily, but also on all fronts. Right? Marvel might have their cinematic universe. I'll give them that. But DC has way more potential and way more better characters than anything Marvel could do. And they have the best games. They have the best animated series. They have, honestly, some of the best movies. Not necessarily the DCEU, but there's also other movies like, Batman and Robin. Maybe not that one. No. But it does have, Batman Returns, and then we have The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises, and we have Superman, the movie, and Superman 2, and not Superman 3, because that was a terrible movie. And then we have Superman Returns. There's so many good, DC eras, where we got these, 90s movies, we got these 90s shows, we've got, Young Justice, and then we can bring it back again to have all of this reigning forth and pushing DC back into the front, as they should be. They should be in front. They should not be behind Marvel. And honestly, I do think that DC will eventually overtake Marvel once again. But it just needs a few tweakings and a little bit more adjustments. But I do think it can be something. It can be someone. It can be Arrow. Oh my gosh, that was no. Anyways, comment down below. What did you guys think about the first half? What did you guys think about Young Justice returning? What are you looking forward to in the second half? Who do you want to see being added to the Young Justice roster? It could be Donna, it could be Starfire, it could be Raven, it could be anyone. anyone, any DC hero, who would you want to see being added that hasn't already been added yet? Comment down below your thoughts and leave a like if you guys enjoyed this, and don't forget to subscribe for more content. Peace out, guys. It's been a blast.